Guys, Frontline Football. I'm going to talk about the franchise tag and how much it ruins these videos. All right, number one, we have Devontae Adams. I don't get why Devontae Adams is getting franchise tagged by the Packers. I think that they're just moving their problems down the road. It also makes it harder on us because a couple of these teams, like the Chargers, had Devontae Adams on their list. Another people are the Kansas City Chiefs getting Orlando Brown. That messed up a lot of our list. And now some of our videos, I apologize for having some of those guys on those lists. We filmed these ahead of time. I'm apologizing now. But yeah, I hope that they can remove franchise tag because it's a really dumb idea and it should not be added. So yeah, and it makes videos like these harder to make because every single time they become old information because, well, yeah. But we got some new guys on here. Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson's now on the Broncos. We're going to have an interesting video. Now, let's roll the intro. Well, guys, let's start off with the Denver Broncos. They just acquired Russell Wilson, so they don't need quarterback anymore. Their needs are edge, tackle, corner, linebacker, tight end. And then guys to bring back, Melvin Gordon, their running back, and Kyle Fuller, one of their corners. I'm going to hand this one off to Jack.
All right, the Denver Broncos, as of yesterday afternoon, made a big trade, and they finally got a quarterback that doesn't completely suck in Russell Wilson. Very good. They gave up a lot of assets, but, it's Russell Wilson. Can't really complain. Let's look right into Denver. Number one guy they want to bring back is Melvin Gordon. They have mutual interest, and he complements well with Javonte Williams for the most part. Second guy is Kyle Fuller. This is one I don't see them maybe not bringing back. It kind of depends because you have Surtain, Ronald Darby, and you also have Kareem Jackson, who's actually safety. They have a good slot corner. Bryce Callahan is another one. So overall, they're just going to have to pick which secondary person they want to bring back out of this group. But as you can see, a decent amount of money to spend, which is always good. You need money. So number one need is probably edge rusher. Chubb is good, but there's really nobody outside of him. Von Miller's, of course, Von Miller. He's been rumored to come back. JPP is another good veteran option. And you can get the sack machine, Hassan Reddick, who's always old reliable in these cases. Second need is probably tackle. Garrett Bowles is good, but I'm not sure about that right side. A couple of veterans to bring in is probably Teron Armstead, one. Great veteran for the Saints. He plays left tackle, but I have a feeling he can play right tackle if he needs to. Another good option is Darion Kennard in the draft. That'd be good for like a second or third round pick. Actually, do you have a second? You may have an extra second somehow. I don't think they have any picks though because of the Russ stuff.
Do Rams.
Oh yeah, they got one from the Rams. So if you could use the Rams picks to get one of those guys, or you could reunite Russ with his old franchise left tackle, Dwayne Brown, and be like a nice little reunion. That would be another cool option as well. Third need is cornerback, mainly because you're losing all those people. Ideally, you just bring one of the guys you're losing back in. But if you can't do that, J.C. Jackson could be an option, even though that's going to be a lot of money. Or you could go with a veteran in Stephon Gilmore and commit to winning a Super Bowl. Next need is going to be linebacker. They don't really have, I think Alexander Johnson's an okay linebacker, but he's leaving, so it's not like he's going to be around. You also have Bobby Wagner, reunite another Russ guy from Seattle, or Dante Hightower. But overall, good options out there to bring in a veteran linebacker. And then last but not least, tight end. You lost Noah Fant, unfortunately, but you do have Trey McBride to fall back on. That would be cool. You also have Zac Ertz, which is another great option. And then last but not least, Gerald Everett, bring in another Russ guy, because it would be funny. Anyway, overall, Broncos committing to winning a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, probably. So then you can do that. Just keep building. You have some money. Spend it wisely. Build around Russ. Don't let him get hit. What are your thoughts, Zach?
Well, with this, I'm going to start off with edge rushers. I think Von Miller will most likely be there because Von Miller wants to retire as a Bronco, probably. That was where he started, and he's probably going to win another ring. I have these guys as my Super Bowl contender because of how good this team was. They just need a quarterback just to get over it. It's kind of like the Rams situation. Next is tackle. Armstead would not be bad. I think that they're going to try to get a guy that Russ trusts, probably Dwayne Brown. They can't get him, then Kennard is always a great option with the Rams pick. Next is cornerback. Kyle Fuller's there. I think that they should re-sign Kyle Fuller, or they can get Stephon Gilmore on a cheap deal. J.C. Jackson's not going to want a cheap deal, and I think we're going to cover a guy, I believe, next video on who I believe J.C. Jackson's going to go to. Next is linebacker. I think Kwon Alexander would be perfect for them. Another guy is Bobby Wagner. He just got added. I don't think that they're going to go for him. I think the two guys that they should go for is Kwon Alexander or Dante Hightower. I do like Wagner, but I think where the Broncos are right now, he would be a nice piece. But I believe that Hightower and Alexander you can get on cheaper deals to get some other guys. Next is tight end. Trey McBride has been on all of our list from the start, and he's going to be there till the finish. And then the other two guys is Zac Ertz. I think that Zac Ertz going to Denver makes a lot of sense. Zac Ertz has been playing a long time. He played pretty well for the Cardinals. You can probably get him on a cheap deal. And then the other guy is Gerald Everett. Russ had a pretty good time passing with him last time, and I think that he could get it done with Russ again. And then finally, I think Melvin Gordon should be a signing that they really should do. And Kyle Fuller, I already mentioned. I think that Melvin Gordon works really well and can train even more for Javonte Williams. Even though Javonte had a great season, I think that Melvin Gordon could be a good back just in case Javonte Williams either gets injured or gets tired, because they do play in high altitude areas, so that messes up running backs usually. What about you, Josh?
I'm going to keep this very short and simple. The Broncos are right now Super Bowl contenders. Now, do I think that they will win a Super Bowl? No, I do not, because they're in a packed division, and I believe that they will do some type of thing in their division to get them a bad seed, which will lead to them doing a poor performance in playoffs. So I think that this is probably the worst time to try to contend as the Broncos. Don't get me wrong, they have a lot of pieces, but I think that this isn't the time. But as you know, they could probably get a lot of these people on cheap deals because they have Russ, and Von Miller really wants to come back. So I think right now it's boom or bust, especially with Nathaniel Hackett. I don't know how he's going to do, and this could be one of the worst folding that we've ever seen as a head coach. It could be worse than Josh McDaniels right now. So I don't think that the Broncos will be making the Super Bowl. I think they'll be making the playoffs, but not past the divisional round. So I'm going to say that their offseason should just be to reload at some of the positions that they lack, especially with tight end and losing Noah Fant in the rush trade.
All right, our next team is the Los Angeles Chargers. They have their needs are cornerback, guard, defensive tackle, offensive tackle, linebacker. Guys to bring back are Mike Williams and Chris Harris Jr. The reason why we have Mike Williams on there, we understand he just got re-signed. It's just because we put him on here before, and we were right about that. So we want to put it like that. And I guess I'll go with my take first. With J.C. Jackson, Chris Harris, and Creon Alum, I believe that they should go Alum. He's a really good corner coming out of Florida, and I think that he would be a really good fit with what the Chargers are doing, having kind of a younger defense. And if they don't want like him, J.C. Jackson's kind of expensive, but they can pay him. I believe he wants $20 million. That's what Jack told me. So, yeah. Next is guard. I think Kenyon Green works out. I think that they're going to go with Brandon Scherf, though. That's going to be their big spending of this offseason, and it's going to protect Justin Herbert big time, and I think that it's going to help a lot. Next is defensive tackles. I think Logan Hall works perfectly here because he's a really good defensive tackle coming out of Houston, and he plays really well, and that's what they kind of need, a guy who can just get to the quarterback and get some pressures, which he does very well. Next is offensive tackles. Eric Fisher, Trent Brown, or Teron Armstead is fine. I think the best guy to get is Trent Brown, too. So get Brandon Scherf, Trent Brown would be the best situation for Justin Herbert in the offense, but I think that you should work on defense because our next guy are linebackers. And that's Bobby Wagner, which I can see the Chargers making a huge move for. I think Jayon Brown is a great pick, and Leighton Vander Esch on a prove-it deal if you want to get Brandon Scherf or Trent Brown. I think that Leighton Vander Esch could help you a lot. So I think that The guys who they really should go after is Bobby Wagner, Trent Brown, Brandon Scherf, and then Korea Lam, and then Logan Hall. So yeah, what about you, Jack?
Chargers are entering a fun point in their offseason. They got $42 million to spend, which is pretty good. Guys to bring back Mike Hughes, or not Mike Hughes, Mike Williams, mission accomplished. You brought him back. And then Chris Harris, who's also leaving for free agency. Number one need is probably cornerback. You're losing Chris Harris. You lost Casey Hayward. You lost Desmond King. That original three group was a very good group. It's gone now, and you need someone to pair with. Probably Sante Samuel. There's a couple different options you can go. One, you could just re-sign your own, get Chris Harris Jr. back in the building. That's always an option. Another option is to go out there and spend half this cap on one dude, J.C. Jackson. It would be very good. Sante Samuel, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James. That's a secondary, probably one of the best in the league. Or you could go the draft route and go for the Andrew Booth or the, in this case, Kier Elam. All would be good options, but corner does need to be added in the offseason. Second biggest need is guard. They've made strides on the offensive line as a whole, adding Rashawn Slater and Corey Linsley last year, but the guards haven't really translated yet, and they're going to need to address that. Kenny Green, great guard in the draft, along with Zion Johnson. Both would be good options to put next to Rashawn Slater, or if you want to put it on the right side too, that'd be cool too. Or you could go in and get the big fish of this free agency market, finally shaking loose out of the Commanders, Brandon Scherf, one of the best guards in the league. He's a pretty consistently top guard of the league. For the most part, add him to with the Chargers line and you'd be in business. Third biggest need is probably D-tackle. I think they have Linval Joseph, but I believe he's leaving. So there's a couple different options you can go here. Go Logan Hall, that'd be good. Or you could go with the free agent option in Sheldon Richardson or DJ Jones. This is a position of need that you need to consider addressing. Have someone with Joey Bosa, but overall you just need to get a solid starting defensive tackle. Fourth need is definitely offensive tackle. You know Slater is going to be good on the left side, but the right side, Bulaga is kind of a question mark. We'll see how good he is, and he's getting up there anyway, so it does need to be considered to be addressed anyway. Teron Armstead, you could afford him. That would be a very good addition. I think Trent Brown, fit-wise, makes the most sense as a natural right tackle who's played it for years. No transition needed. He can slide right in. Rashawn Slater, Trent Brown, solid duo. Or you could go with Eric Fisher on a cheaper deal if that's the route you want to go. I believe he could play right tackle. Fifth need is linebacker. I believe they have a guy named Kenneth Murray they drafted a couple years ago in the first round, but it's not like he's a star linebacker or anything, and it does need to be addressed. Bobby Wagner would be very good in this Chargers scheme. Makes a lot of sense. Or you could go with a cheaper option, but still very good in Jayon Brown or Leighton Vander Esch prove-it deal, which would also be interesting. But overall for the Chargers, they need to improve the cornerback core, fixed up the O-line a bit, and preferably add a linebacker in one of free agency or draft. What are your thoughts, Josh?
I feel like the main focus for this offseason for the Los Angeles Chargers is going to be their defense because that is what killed them in games. That's what made them lose to the Texans, the Raiders, and a bunch of the other teams that they lost to. It was not their offense. I don't think their offense, it should have a couple minor changes, but besides the guard position, I don't think it needs improvement. I think what they need is run stuffers because last year they were 30th in the league in stopping the running game. They had 119.8 yards given up per. That can be shown by the Rex Burkhead game against the Texans where he ran all over them. They need a run stuffer. Their biggest need right now is somebody to get up in the runner's face and get him down for a loss. Staley did not do well in his first year stopping the run, and they need somebody on that team. I don't care if it's a coach, I don't care if it's a player. They need someone on that team to stop the run, neutralize offenses. Because that was their biggest problem was the rushing defense. So they need somebody to be able to get into the gaps and get to their man. So my biggest need for them is make sure that you have some run stoppers up front or in your linebacking core.
All right, our next team is the Las Vegas Raiders. Their needs are wide receiver, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, guard, linebacker, guys to bring back, Jonathan Hankins, Casey Hayward, and KJ Wright. Josh, what about you? Take this one over.
Okay, so the Raiders, they have a lot of things. They looked very promising at the beginning, but now they don't look as promising, especially with how many people that they lost due to off the field issues. So, for this, I think, yes, wide receiver should probably be assessed in the draft. Now, the Raiders have a little bit of money to spend, so a lot of these guys are private deals. Maybe they could get some people on some big money deals if they want to go. I would not suggest that because of the situation that you guys are in. So you need to bolster up your offense because of how many pieces that you lost. You also need to get your wide receiver because you did just lose Henry Ruggs this season. So I think somebody in the draft could really help you. This is a very loaded wide receiver class. You could probably find someone even if it's a later round guy. And then tackle. This class has some tackles, but I think if there's somebody there in your range, maybe like a Rain Man, or if if you want to go for a second round guy like Falele, you probably trade up to get him. So I think a lot of these have to be done through the draft or prove it deals. But right now, the Raiders just need to rebound from the season that they had this year with all the different allegations. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have a good season. I'm just saying all the things that happened was not very good. So I'm going to hand this one off to Zach for his take.
Oh, okay. Wide receiver, I think that a lot of these guys would be pretty good. I think Juju, DJ Chark, or Michael Gallup could be really solid options. I think that they should go DJ Chark in this situation. He could be a really good guy next to Hunter Renfrow. He's not even the first option on this team like he was on the Jags, so it's a little bit less of a workload, especially after coming off of an ACL tear. Next is offensive tackle. I think Dwayne Brown could be really good. And then Rayman or Penning would be great too. Believe that they should take one of those two in the draft. Next is defensive tackles. Jonathan Hankins is the guy that I want back. DJ Jones is not bad either, coming from the Niners. And then Jordan Davis is the guy who had that amazing combine this year, and I think that the Raiders would really like that because usually they like speedy guys, and this guy is very fast for a defensive tackle. I think he was only 0.02 seconds away from catching Patrick Mahomes' time, which is very impressive. Next is guard Kenyon Green, Andrew Norwell, or Brandon Scherf. I think they should go Andrew Norwell if they have to go any of these guys because he's a really solid guard. Linebacker Jalen Brown, Gerard Davis, Jordan Hicks, or Rashad Evans. All these guys are really good. I think Jordan Hicks is a little bit too old for them, being 29. I think that they should go for a young guy like Jalen Brown or Rashad Evans. Gerard Davis is pretty good too. So, and then if they want to go the oldest route, KJ Wright is always there too. What about you, Jack?
The Raiders, this is a situation, if you want to call it that. So, some guys to bring back. Jonathan Hankins, been a solid nose tackle for them for years. Probably bring him back on a reasonable deal. Casey Hayward, who drastically exceeded my expectations for what he was going to be on the Raiders this year. That's a guy you definitely want to bring back if you can. And then last but not least, KJ Wright, another late free agent signing that exceeded expectations in Vegas. But let's get right into it. This McDaniels system is going to require one more receiver. They, for the most part, have the main part of the McDaniels system, which is the run game between Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller filling in the tight end role, and then Hunter Renfrow being the Julian Edelman slot receiver, do-it-all kind of type. But you still need one more receiver to sort of complement them. And all these guys will be solid options. Gallup, if possible, would probably be the best of the three. But Juju Smith-Schuster and DJ Chark specifically makes a lot of sense for the Raiders scheme-wise. He's more of a deep threat, so he kind of complements Waller and Renfrow, who can control the middle of the field. I think that works out really well. Offensive tackle, you got Colton Miller on one side. Right tackle, not so much. Leatherwood was like hit or miss, and he played guard sometimes, so I don't think you can trust him full-time as your right tackle. But some guys in your range, probably Bernard Ryman and then Trevor Penning, those two in the draft specifically. That's right around the Raiders' range. You're out of range for Neil Cross and Iquanu, but you probably are in range for a Penning or a Raymond. Dwayne Brown's another solid veteran option if you wanted to add him. I think he's a little old for what the Raiders are trying to do, but if you need just a stopgap to make sure the right tackle's not a disaster, he's not the worst option out there. Third need is defensive tackle. They're potentially losing Hankins to free agency, so you are going to need to add another starting nose tackle. Some good options are DJ Jones, or you could go with combine freak Jordan Davis. Can't complain with that freak of a man next to Max Crosby. That could be a very scary defensive duo for years to come. Guards, another need you need to consider. There's a couple different options you could go. Go with the big fish and Scherf. You can go with a medium-sized player and Andrew Norwell, who's going to be rock solid. Or you can go into the draft and go with Kenyon Green. All of it works to an extent, but you do need to add at least one starting guard to this roster at some point. And then last but not least is linebacker. Obviously, you're losing KJ Wright. You're going to need someone to replace him, and there are a couple options. I wouldn't go breaking the bank on a linebacker, but there are some solid options that can probably get the job done for at least this season. Jayon Brown, Rashaan Evans, both those Titans linebackers, solid players that can step in immediately and be a starter. Gerard Davis is an okay player as well. And then Jordan Hicks. He's a little old, like Zach said, for this rebuild, but it could work, theoretically. But overall, for the Raiders, you just sort of need to add some players, add some talent. It's not going to be like a splashy offseason necessarily, but you are going to be able to improve your roster with some okay draft assets and a solid cap number. So we'll see what they do moving forward.
All right, our next team is the Kansas City Chiefs. Their needs are corner, edge, safety, linebacker, wide receiver, guys to bring back, Tyrann Mathieu, Orlando Brown. We already know he got franchise tag. That's in the intro. We just want it to be right. And Melvin Ingram. I'm going to hand this one off to Jack.
Chiefs. This one's not really as fun as the others. -$6 million, not great start, because I think the Mahomes contract is almost ready to rock and roll and just hit your cap $50 million every year. That's going to be rough. As Zach said, Orlando Brown, you guys are in business, kept a left tackle, needed to do that, traded a first for him, and he played good enough. Tyrann Mathieu, don't get your hopes up, Chiefs fans. I don't think he's coming back. He said some very mean things about the Chiefs fans on Twitter, and there's already been some questionable stuff, so I have a feeling Tyrann Mathieu's time in KC is over. Melvin Ingram, maybe. Haven't heard much about that. But he has played pretty solid for them for the most part in the time he was in Chiefs for that half of the season. Number one need is probably cornerback. There's not a lot going on up there. That's pretty much how everything goes for the Chiefs defense. But there are some solid options you could look at. Go for the Desmond King. This is the Jason Verrett's, the cheaper prove-it deals again for the inconsistent or injured. That could be good. Or you could go with the Daxton Hill in the draft. That's kind of Chiefs range for the most part, so you should be fine with that. Second biggest need is edge. Melvin Ingram and Justin Houston homecoming would be kind of cool, even if he's old. But edge rushing needs a little bit of work. I believe Frank Clark is still in KC, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit, so you definitely need someone to pick up the slack a little bit. Or Clowney, that could be another big hit boomer bust player for the Chiefs. I think that could work as well. Third need is safety. You have Juan Thornhill, who plays this year, I think, but Tyrann Mathieu's probably gone. You're gonna have to look other places. Quandre Diggs, that's a solid veteran to replace Tyrann Mathieu. It's not going to be Tyrann Mathieu, but it could be near him. It's good enough. Or you could go in the draft with Lewis Sine, a recent draft riser. I think he had a good combine. That could be another good option. Fourth need is probably linebacker. There's not a lot going on there either. Dante Hightower, Keanu Neal, both are solid veteran options. You are going to need probably a vet to run the linebacker core just because they're kind of the center of the defense. So it would be ideal to have someone with a little bit of experience in there. But if you want, you could go with the high upside Leo Chenal. That would work too. Last but not least, you need another receiver. Tyreek's your number one. Kelsey at tight end. Nicole Hardman's all right, but you do need someone else. Juju to the Chiefs. That was been rumored since last year. That could actually go down this year. That makes a lot of sense. Allen Robinson on a prove-it deal. That could also be a good complement to Tyreek's speed with Allen Robinson's contested catching ability. Or you could go with Treylon Burks. He had a not-so-good combine, but that's okay. He's still a talented player, and he's in Chiefs range. If you think you could develop him into a potential good complementary option, I think he could be something to consider. But overall for the Chiefs, it's all about your defense. Defense is pretty bad, and you also need to add at least one more offensive weapon as well to complement Hill and Kelsey. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Well, I think that the Chiefs this offseason, their main goal should be to keep their momentum going because they did just have a very heartbreaking loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. So this offseason, they got to make sure to just reload. They've already gotten themselves into contendership. Now they just need to win another Super Bowl before the Mahomes deal starts to really affect their cap. Because once that Mahomes deal starts to come in, it's over for the Chiefs, and they're going to have a fire sale, and it will just be Mahomes' money, and that will be it. Unless they can find some really good young stars. So, I think this offseason, there's going to be a lot of building through the draft. Maybe one or two big signings, but I don't see much coming from KC this offseason. And I think it's just going to be a lot of reloading. Like what you saw during the previous offseason whenever they lost to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to hand this one off to Zach for his take.
All right, well, a corner is a huge need. They were getting burnt every single time, especially by Jamar Chase or any other number one options. I think Desmond King, Jason Verrett could be very good. Daxton Hill is coming out of Michigan. He played very well for them on their defense, and I think that he could be a great option. Next is edge. Melvin Ingram sometimes played linebacker to edge. Justin Houston be a fun homecoming, like Jack said, and I think that he could be a really solid player for them. I don't think that they could really go after him. The guy I'm really focused on for the Chiefs is Jadeveon Clowney. I think that Clowney could actually find his role on the Chiefs that he found in Houston, which would be super helpful, being in a D-line with Chris Jones and Frank Clark. That would be a very good D-line. And then safeties, Tyrann Mathieu. It would be nice to have him back, but I don't think the Honey Badger will be back. Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs. I don't think you guys are going to get him. I think that you guys are going to get Louis Cine. He's a very good guy coming out of Georgia, and he is probably not even probably. He is the second best safety in this class, other than Kyle Hamilton. Oh, yeah. And then linebackers, Dante Hightower, Keon O'Neal. I think that they should go Keon O'Neal. He's number one, he had a little bit of injury problems, but he's had that for a long time. If you can just keep him healthy, he's a very good player. And then if you want to take Leo, he's very good coming out of Wisconsin. We have him on mostly everyone's list. And yeah, he's just going to be an amazing player going into this. Now, next is wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster. There was rumors, like Jack said, about that, and I think that those rumors could be true this year. There's also Allen Robinson, but there has to be one thing with Allen Robinson. He has to be on a cheap deal. I don't know what Allen Robinson wants for money. That's what we were kind of debating before the video started. So yeah, and then Treylon Burks is a very good guy coming out of Arkansas. Didn't have a great combine, like Jack said, but this guy has a lot of athleticism. And if he shows it off in his pro day, this will really move up his draft stock and maybe out of the Chiefs' range. But we don't want that. We want the Chiefs. I don't want the Chiefs to do this, and probably a lot of people don't. But the Chiefs fans, if they want him, then sure, get him. So yeah. All right, our next team.